some of your early videos that I saw, you were definitely busting over the speed limit of Mexico, of course. But
never.
But like,
I go right to the speed limit in every race I have ever raced on the road.
Yeah, exactly. So that's that, right?
Yep.
There's no. Have you ever thought about doing a not a gumball, a cannonball run?
I would probably never do that. For what do they?
Because of the risk, or because of?
I wouldn't see the need to, because I don't know. The one they did during COVID is probably unbeatable.
Oh, I heard that because there just wasn't that much traffic, right?
They did it in, what was it, like 25? I don't even remember all the the fast times, but they destroyed it. And I feel like the only thing I would want to the only reason I would want to do that is for like a piece of content or something, and plastering that on the internet probably wouldn't be the best idea. Probably
not. The only ones I've seen have been like people kind of in a setting like this, like telling the story.
Yeah.
As if it's a fictional story.
Yeah, but they don't actually never see show videos what they
of
did.
It happening, because you go through every state and someone is going to sue you or try to get you or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any interest in that.
Yeah.
It's cool though, but not for me.
Yeah. I really, really like the whole premise fascinates me, and it's really cool the way that you build cars for cannonball runs, like huge gas tanks, and
soon it's going to be huge batteries.
Yeah.
Someone's going to have themselves a plaid just...
As far as like never being beat though, like eventually when the range on electric cars, because you're so quiet, I feel like maybe there's something there. Like, I don't know. It seems sad to me thinking that the time on a cannonball run can never be beat. I'm like trying to think of ways that that's hopefully not true.
Yeah, I think, well, it could obviously always be beat, but you just got to keep...
a worse pandemic and really good electric cars.
Yeah. Well, from what I understand, I'm not a huge expert in any of that. I don't follow it too much, but I think a lot of people don't count that because it was during COVID.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like an unofficial record, but I don't follow the cannonball stuff, so I really don't know where the people that follow that, where their opinions lie, but
yeah.
And I know there's a ton of subcategories in that too. So it's like the fastest truck or RV or whatever it might be.
People do it in RVs.
I think so. I might have just made that up, but I'm pretty sure I've heard something like that.
I'm sure they have. I guess you could have people sleeping while other people are driving, and the gas tanks are huge, so maybe it's actually a pretty good situation.
Yeah, you just cut a hole through the floor to the gas tank and you just fuel it while you're driving. Right after you get out of bed.
See, your mind is perfect for this, though. That's why I asked. Like,
I think I could probably do pretty good, but I'm not going to do it.
It was worth a shot. Well, if you do it and you need a spotter, you know who to call.
All right. I think it's funny how much hate like all the Subaru guys get in the car community, but I like Subarus. I was going to try to get one as my first car actually, but it didn't happen.
Would you still, knowing what you know?
I'd still try it because I think it'd just be different. We've never done anything with a boxer engine, and I guess I could see if the rumors are true and see if they're as unreliable as people say, because there's people that can build them right and there's people that don't build them right. But you just don't see that many fast Subarus out there that are...
It seems like the boxer engine has some hard limitations.
Yeah, mainly it seems like everything surrounds the head gaskets.
Yeah.
And there's definitely guys out there that have some very fast, respectable Subarus, but if you just look at reality, it's a handful of them.
Yeah.
And it takes, a dedicated team and guys that know what they're doing, usually to keep those things together.
And I think they're insanely expensive to build in the first place. Like if you've got a horsepower number you're looking for, and you could pretty much get it cheaper out of any other engine, it seems like.
Yeah, no, you can. I remember seeing the memes, and it's like slaps $10,000 worth of mods into a Subaru, and it's like the dyno sheet slapping on the table. It's like 350 wheel horsepower.
Yeah.
Like all that money just for like 300 horsepower. And it's kind of true, at least from what I know. I'm not trying to hate on the Subaru guys, but I would definitely go a different route if I was trying to make a lot of power out of a 4-cylinder. Like I'd do like an Evo or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Evos are probably one of the coolest cars ever.
Yeah, I think at some point I'm going to do an Evo build. I've always wanted to since I was young. Like I got my Civic. At that time, Evos were still out of reach, but that was like, to me, one of the pinnacle race cars, because it was a time before making a Civic all-wheel drive even existed. So an Evo was on my mind actually before I built the MR2, because the whole reason I built the MR2 was to get more traction on the street, to street race. And my other thought was to build an Evo because they're all-wheel drive, and you can make the same power levels but put the power down. So I was actually looking for Evos at the same time, but Evos were like 15,000 and up. I want to say at that time when I got the MR2 for 3. So I'm like, oh, well, if I get an MR2 and put 10 grand into it, I'm going to have a really fast MR2, whereas that's just getting me into an Evo. And then I looked into that their transmissions need a lot of work, and it was just like, that's going to be a lot of money. Where the Honda platform going into the MR2 made more sense to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you have any other records that you're looking at beating?
Well, we're going to try to reset the NSX record with a new NSX that we're building. So my buddy Hayden's doing a full 25 cert roll cage in an NSX that I have back in Colorado right now. And it would be really cool if we could put it into the 6s. I don't know if we will be able to do that, but I don't see any reason why we can't go a bottom 7 in an NSX chassis, because these have a longer wheelbase than the MR2. So the engine orientation setup, so you have that same issue with that weight in the back, but you have a longer wheelbase, which is giving the front end more leverage. So it's going to be harder for the front end to pick up off the ground. So that's a plus.
So that is the main problem you're facing right now, is actually just doing wheelies.
Yeah,
as far as getting the MR2 faster.
Yeah, it's wheelies, because it almost has, because of the weight being back there, like traction. We haven't fought a real traction issue yet. The issue is the more power we throw down and the lack of suspension we can adjust because the engine's in the back, that, it just wants to pick the front end up. And if we throw too much power at it and try to, get off the line too fast and it picks that front end up, we have the laser height sensor in the front, and it will pull power to keep the car settled, and all is good and safe, but we're still pulling power, which in turn is slowing us down.
So it's a laser that senses you're about to wheelie and lets off for you, kind of.
Yeah, it starts pulling timing progressively as the car gets higher up to keep it
It's like
settled.
wheelie control on a street bike.
Very similar. So there's just literally a little laser height sensor in the front, and once it comes into a certain threshold, there's a table on our tune that starts pulling power, and the higher it goes, the more power it pulls. And there's a point to where if it somehow got high enough, it's like, all right, shut the whole car down and make sure I don't go all the way up. Because I have actually, if after we're done, you can look on the back of it, and there's a scuff under my parachute bar. Because before we had all that, I did a wheelie that was so big that all 4 tires came off the ground, and the car was
all
up.
All
4. And it came up off onto
So it's more than a wheelie. You jumped it.
Kind of, yeah. I literally went like this, and the weight pushed up onto the rear bumper, and it did a little bunny hop, and all 4 tires were off the ground.
That must have scared.
Yeah, and it hit the back bumper. It didn't really, I guess I probably needed an underwear change after that, but it came down so hard that the front tires like tilted in and slammed in, so I was worried that it like tweaked to the front. I was worried that it like would have totaled the car, but we were able to straighten everything out and get it good. But that was a hard hit, and we're like, we need a way to like control this, because back then our wheelie control was just like putting weight in the front of the car. I had these sandbags that I'd put in the front. They were those 50-pound like Play Kid sandbags, and I'd set them in the front to keep the nose down. Yeah, but that's also weight we're having to add to the car to combat a wheelie problem. Yeah. Whereas if it was like a front engine car, the weight split is way better.
So your MR2 record is going to be hard to beat.
I think it's right now we set the bar pretty high. Yeah. It's definitely beatable right now. We had a pass at an event we were at that it didn't click into its 5th gear, but I was on a pass that would have at least shaved a 10th off of our time, which would have been pretty good, but I wasn't able to get it into gear. But we're getting it put back together to try to go do that again. And our time is definitely beatable. Like I said, if a group of guys that know what they're doing weren't focused on the other chassis that are out there, and they put some time into an MR2, it could be beat. And there are some MR2s out there that have been trying to get to where we are, but we are a solid half second ahead of everyone right now.
That's huge.
Yeah, there's only one other 7-second MR2, and he did it maybe a year after we did or something like that. And then there's one out in the UK that runs bottom 8s, and he just put a full billet engine in his, so he's trying to get into the 7s too. So they're still out there, and the MR2 is still fairly new, and it takes time, like we have the YouTube channel, so it's my job to build these things.
That is a
so
pro.
my cars get done quicker than the average Joe. And there are MR2s that have been being built at that level for the last, 4 or 5 years. And because it's a newer concept, I think in the next 2-3 years, I'm hoping there's a couple that come out that, can give my MR2 a good run for its money. Because I thrived off that competition at that time and retaining like the quickest MR2.
Yeah.
And now we set the bar pretty high. And I'm hoping, these guys are still trying to come for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think the NSX is going to be able to go faster because of the longer wheelbase and the wheelies being less of a problem?
Yep. The longer wheelbase will help with that. It should, in theory, help it be more stable. The full outside, and actually, I think the whole car most of it is aluminum. So the outside body, the floor, all that's aluminum. They are really light from factory as well. So if we have the same amount of things cut up in the MR2 as we do in an NSX, it should be overall lighter with the longer wheelbase, and you can fit a much bigger tire in the back without too much modification. So that's a 28-inch tall tire compared to the MR2 that has a 26. We can fit a bigger, wider tire. So if we're able to utilize that longer wheelbase, we'll still probably have to put the weight on the front. But now every pound that we put on the front of the NSX, every pound that we put on the front of an NSX is going to be more significant than a pound on the MR2 because of that wheelbase. It's more leverage. Imagine getting a longer and longer pry bar with the same force. Mm-hmm. The longer that pry bar gets, you're going to have more leverage to push down what you're trying to push down. So 50 pounds on the nose of the MR2 is going to be less leverage than 50 pounds on the NSX. So that's where that wheelbase will really hopefully help us. And then we can put a bigger tire, put the traction and power down, and get a really good short track, and then beat our MR2 time and hopefully go a high 6 would be the ultimate goal.
Yeah, because I think you said it last time. If you're the first to the 6s, that's quite the achievement.
Yeah, if the MR2 goes a 6 one day, like I'd probably, I don't even know what I'd do after that. That'd be insane if it could do that. Because after we did the first 7, I felt like I achieved my life goal. Honestly, I felt I was so just accomplished in that moment. I was like, I had like a now what kind of moment.